It's Mark Sessler, Meli Kalikimaka, to you, sir, and Greg, who's here for a funeral.
I mean, you wore that sweater. You tried to one-up us. Didn't tell us. Like, we all have our team sweaters. We could have worn it.
You could have. So how's that my thing?
But
That's my problem?
If you had sent the text out, hey, let's all wear sweaters and be on the same page, then we would have done it. But you wanted to be the star.
You know, it's funny that that's where your mind goes. I saw the sweater. It was too late to let you guys know. And, you know, instead we're getting ready to go in a funeral procession to right down the old Main Street. But
I'm wearing a sweater. You know, that's my version of Christmas.
I mean, I think we specialize in totally divergent wear. We've never looked the same on the show ever. And, I mean, I'm not sure it's pleasing anyone what we're doing right now.
We are, yes, fashion icons, as you can see. This is, of course, the Around the NFL broadcast. If you listen to our podcast, good. Welcome here for the television program. You can check out the podcast 4 times a week, including Sunday nights, our flagship program, where we recap every game in the week. Now, this show, that show, is going through every team in the league, 2 minutes a team, maybe one if you've been naughty this year. Let's get going with the NFC West. And Greggy, coming off a tough Thursday night game, what about the Niners?
I mean, speaking of being naughty, like this is why everyone's so hard on Jimmy G. Everyone who like tries to say, well, look at the numbers. It's like Thursday night was the example of why everyone's so hard on Jimmy G. 72% of his yards were yards after the catch. All of his receivers were wide open. So every one of his plays is either a completion or a catastrophe. He had 2 interceptions that were absolutely unnecessary and were killers. Another one that was dropped. This is Kyle Juszczyk down the field wide open. And when things start going bad, you just don't feel like he is gonna find his way out of it. And then at the end of the game, you look at the numbers, you're like, actually, maybe he didn't play that badly. No, he did. We watched it.
He totally opened the door for the Titans to come right back into that game because, I mean, that could have been or should have been 24-0 at the end of the first half. The Juszczyk miss, I mean, give me a break. And, I mean, Shanahan, who a couple weeks ago looked hyper red and steamed at Jimmy G's play. Last night on the second pick, he just said that was a bad decision. We can't be doing that. I mean, it defines your ceiling, I think, if you're the Niners. Clearly.
He's interesting, Jimmy G, because he doesn't get a lot of rope from the football cognoscenti. Like, he could lead the league in yards per attempt this season, which I think he was entering Thursday, and still have one bad game, and then everything gets erased. And it's like, there it is. I told you. He does stink. And I'm not saying Jimmy G is a great quarterback, but it is funny to me when he does have these bad games, it's immediately the avalanche of get this guy out of town, get this guy on the bench. He is the problem. Well, I guess he had a bad game.
He's a middle-of-the-road guy, but I think when you watch him and when you watch the 49ers offense, you can understand that a lot of quarterbacks could run it. Because the receivers on Thursday night were wide open. Like, this is why Nick Mullins had that graphic back in 2018 that it was like the highest yards per attempt in his first 7 starts in NFL history. It's like Nick Mullins, Joe Montana, Johnny Unitas, Brett Favre. It's like Jimmy Garoppolo is like a little above Nick Mullins.
And, oh, by the way, if we want to bury Jimmy G, which is fine,
I just did.
How about Kyle Shanahan? He drafted a quarterback 3rd overall and is afraid to play him. So he made this decision, the coach, and that's where we are now.
I do think the Jimmy G salt and pepper scenario, I'm liking that a little bit. I know it's, he's
an extremely handsome man. That's never been in doubt.
No.
How about the Cardinals, Mark?
Well, the Cardinals, I mean, just a little update for everyone watching this, wherever you are in America right now. Santa Claus is a real being who is bringing presents to all the children. Children know that. I do have a question. Are the Cardinals for real?
Ooh.
Are the Cardinals
you're asking the question now.
I'm going to answer the question.
Last week you said they are absolutely for real.
I'm going to answer the question again. They're absolutely as real as Dan and Greg sitting next to me, the Arizona Cardinals. I love that everyone right now, I get it, they want to put a little wreath on the Indianapolis Colts foreheads, and they think it's going to happen on Saturday night. I'm telling you right now, the Arizona Cardinals are going to defy what the public expects to happen. I am willing this into existence. That always works.
No, I was going to say, that's totally cool. Because like the Rams, for instance, earlier in the season when they were going through their slide, and you can pick really almost any team, they're never as bad as when they're playing at their worst, a team like this. And it's like, what is your reasoning, though, why they're going to snap out of the slump now? Do you actually have a reason or just because you want it to?
I do.
Where are we at?
I do want it to happen. I think that up until this little slump, and every one of these teams, including the Rams, have been through these slumps, They were one of the most consistent teams in the NFC, no doubt about it. And I think you're going to get Kyler Murray. I think, listen, the DeAndre Hopkins loss matters. All this stuff matters. But this is not a mistake-prone team.
This is wish casting.
No, it's not a team that's going to fall off a cliff. I just don't think so.
I'm with you, but there's two things here. Number one, don't do the thing where it's like, no one's picking them. This is like the backs against what? They are a 1.5 favorite. That's like a Florio move that's like, hey, no one picked this. I mean, they're the Cardinals.
On our show, you said I faded the public by locking up the Cardinals. So, Greg, you can't say one thing on Thursday and another thing on Friday.
I'm just saying, like, it's not a crazy thing. The public is like
they are loving the Colts. The Colts are everyone.
They're the trending team.
Everyone's darling.
It's not some big upset. I do struggle with, like, how do we value how a team is playing now and what that means for January versus like how they played early in the season, because we have so many examples where December play is not indicative, including the Super Bowl winning Cardinals. Appearing Cardinals, who you remember like lost by about 90 points in 2 games in December and then went to the Super Bowl. I don't know if it means anything for January. That's all.
I just told you what it means.
I hope you're not disappointed, Mark. The Colts are playing very well. Let's move on to the Rams. Aaron Donald, he got the message. The old Zeuser challenged him. The greatest defensive player of the last 10 years, makes some plays to win games, and that's all he's been doing the last couple weeks. And I don't know if he wins Defensive Player of the Year. I think people are probably sick of giving it to him at this point, so he won't. And he's going to the Hall of Fame anyway, and he's rich as hell. So everything's good for Aaron Donald.
Seems happy, too.
He has his health. He seems like a well-adjusted, happy guy. But it's just fun. We were lucky enough to be at the Rams game this past week, and just watching him in person, seeing how he's just a constant disruptor. The Rams might not be a perfect football team, but in Aaron Donald in the front 7 and Jalen Ramsey manning the back, I mean, that is as good as it gets.
I saw our colleague, Tom Pelissero, your close friend, Dan, had a poll with
I've never actually
executives
had a real conversation
in NFL. That's
with
fine.
Tom in
You
any
can
sense.
feel the friendship.
We've watched him on TV.
Yeah.
He's done a great job. He polled executives, and they had TJ Watt as the favorite, or got the most votes. Micah Parsons was second. Myles Garrett's in the mix. And Donald was, kind of forgotten. And yet, I kind of think he has a chance to win it because 3 weeks is so long in this league that we live in. Tom Brady was the favorite for the MVP a week ago, and they had one bad game, and now he's not even being mentioned. So I feel like if Aaron Donald just wrecked shop for 3 more weeks, he might win that award.
Oh, that's a huge amount of time. I mean, he is the #1 player in the league against the run since week 8. I mean, he's just been dominant. He does it all.
Good nug.
Well, it's a fact.
Good nug.
What does that even, wait, what was the fact?
The most dominant run stuffer in the league since week 8.
Okay, like by what metric, though?
But Mark metrics. But
Because if you're going to go specific with week 8, like how is that measured?
Also, real research out there. Greg is like, I'm going to have Mark fired by the network by the end of the show, and I'm not allowing a second.
Is it like run block win rate or something? PFF?
You can say whatever you want, Greg. Have a nice time with yourself.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Let's move on to the Seattle Seahawks. Greg.
Oh, the Seahawks team. It's hard to talk about them at this point, but
Greg?
This Russ DK thing, it's a thing. This Russ
Greg talking about this DK Russ thing is a thing.
What else is there left to talk about with this dead Seahawks team? It's a thing, and it's one of the many reasons I believe they won't be teammates. There's just, whether it's just all football or whether it's vibes or whether it's DK's not happy or whether he's not running the routes or Russ isn't getting the ball to him in a good spot, it's not working. And these are 2 of what's supposed to be the best players on the team and the pillars of the organization. It's a problem.
It sure seems to work better with Tyler Lockett. I mean, this situation right here, I mean, there were problems with it. He's had 20 targets over the last 2 weeks.
He is trying.
Yeah, they're trying.
Russell Wilson to get the ball to Metcalf, and they're just not connecting. And I thought the biggest play in the Seahawks season was the 3rd down bomb down the left sideline.
Absolutely.
DK Metcalf got behind Jalen Ramsey, open for the touchdown, would have tied the game at 17. And Russell Wilson, who's the greatest at throwing the moon ball maybe ever, undershot him by 7 yards. And that's just the way the season has gone. And I guess we can make a bigger thing of it because DK Metcalf and Russ Wilson certainly had a good vibe before this year. I think the finger continues to be an issue. I can't tell you, I'm not a doctor, even though I wear a doctor's sweater. But I think that has to play into it.
I also like to think of that
Green.
DK quote that I brought up 10 weeks ago on this show as the canary in the coal mine of this whole Seahawks organization. When he said that he had never had a ball put in position to make a play quite like he had from Geno Smith when he had that touchdown against the Jaguars. That was the canary in the coal mine of this whole season. It's a theory that's really played out well for me.
This is just Greg putting the record on his favorite song.
I was going to say, on like
it's Christmas.
Like pop culture websites in December, it's everything's the best of the best of. Greg's playing the hits here so far. He's got Geno Smith mentioned. He's got a DK Metcalf, Russ Wilson feud. He's coming after you on various things.
He Trojan horse that Geno Smith point right into that topic too. So please.
We're off and running here on the broadcast. Coming up next, the NFC East. Mark called me up on the phone privately last night and said more like NFC least and just hung up. And I was like, whoa.
That was a spicy,
I had a landline too. That was weird.
Why don't you just tell me that in the morning? Why did you have to call?
Well, I won't do it again.
Welcome back to the broadcast. It's a Christmas special, as you can tell. Coming up later in the episode, Charo sings Jingle Bell Rock. But first, the NFC East. Mark, Cowboys.
Cowboys. Micah's magic. We love Micah Parsons.
Oh, what a player.
Defensive player of the year, maybe.
Unbelievable.
Defensive rookie of the year, no problem about it. But DeMarcus Lawrence, how about 3 cheers for DeMarcus Lawrence? I think he's been the straw that has stirred the drink since he's come back. You know, The Athletic put out a great article just kind of profiling his splash plays, which are interceptions, forced fumbles, sacks, fumble recoveries. And we saw it right here with what he did to Saquon Barkley. The force and the power to knock the ball right out of his hands. He has his splash plays are at a rate right now where he's climbing up the charts, having barely played on that team this season. I think he is the X factor down the stretch, along with Parsons. He also allows them to use Parsons in so many different ways. So I think that's the combination is dangerous.
You know what's the X factor for this Dallas season and so many other Dallas seasons where they'd be going to Christmas a game or two under 500? The defense has all these great impact players. And so instead of them losing a bunch of low-scoring games because the offense can't get right, you have the defense carrying them, and Lawrence has been a major part.
If you want to sound like a smart football head, which Mark is, and obviously making that point here, you give DeMarcus Lawrence some love because he's someone I feel like over the last 5 or 6 years, the sack totals every season aren't quite as high as the impact that he's making. When you're drafting a defensive end, I feel like people imagine DeMarcus Lawrence. Like, that's what you want. So, strong, tough, can do absolutely everything. I think of that year when Dak was a rookie, and DeMarcus Lawrence just absolutely wrecked shop the entire season that year, was dominant. And It's crazy that they have maybe 3 candidates for Defensive Player of the Year if Lawrence had stayed healthy and playing like this. He's obviously not a candidate, but he just started 4 or 5
How frustrating must it be on some level, even though the Cowboys are having a really nice season, if you would have told them back in August, the fans, you'll have 3 players on the defense who could be credibly talked about as Defensive Player of the Year, and your offense is the thing that's holding you back. You would have never predicted that.
And holding you back is 10-4, like in the 2 seed right now. It's wild.
But they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
You could feel it. Greg, Washington football team.
They're not quite as vulnerable because they're in the NFC East. I think you're excited to watch this game, Dallas and Washington. I don't think Washington fans know how good they had it. Back when Jay Gruden and
it's like a two-hander episode. I'm just watching it with everybody else.
I'm enjoying it. You're an NFC East guy.
So you're saying that when we hark back to the time when Jay Gruden and Kirk Cousins were together.
Hey, how about have some offense? Everyone wants to get excited about what's happened. It's like, they're changing the culture in Washington with Ron Rivera. First of all, it hasn't been a great couple seasons off the field for Washington. Second of all, they're 7-9 last year, and they're significantly worse this year. Even though the record's 6-8, they don't have an offense. They really haven't built a lot. Kirk Cousins and Jay Gruden. I would argue Jay Gruden, the best Washington football coach since the year 2000.
My counter would be that they won 9 games once and never more than that in that regime, and they never won a playoff.
Wait, is that true? They made the playoffs. They had a winning record a couple times.
They made the playoffs and they had 1 winning record. They won 8 or fewer games every other time they were together. It left you wanting. It also was in the middle of the RG3 explosion.
Right.
So it was.
This is such a topic for
8
Greg.
and 7-1. So they did have a couple.
When it's week 16 and Washington's kind of out of it, and you don't want to talk about COVID. You end up talking about Jay Gruden and Kirk Cousins. Let's be honest, they're 6-8 now. Kirk Cousins has told us over about 10 years now they'd be, 7-7 if he was there?
Sure.
He's the epitome of the 500 quarterback. I like Kirk Cousins, but let's be real, that's who he is.
I guess my thought is,
Jay Gruden,
you're right. I'm out of things to talk about. This Washington team, to me, is worse than their 6-8 record, and they've taken a pretty big step back from a year ago. They've had some bad luck with injuries and COVID and everything. Jay
Gruden, he should have told his agent to pick up the phone. Maybe he can get the beer commercials that his brother vacated. That could have been a nice side gig for Jay.
I
don't think Jay's got the X factor, the likability either.
All right, just an idea. Greg, on the Eagles.
Okay, everyone likes to just pretend analytics is just this thing that's telling coaches what to do. The Eagles are one of the most analytically driven teams in the NFL, and you know what the analytics say? They like large men.
And they're not alone.
No, they're not.
It's something you look at when you watch how they built their team. And to me, they are all about the numbers. And what do the numbers tell you? They say invest your money in large men. Offensive linemen, defensive linemen. But the big brutes that, have the microphone on Sundays and like to pick on analytics don't point this out. This is another avenue. They're saying give that money to the large men, the offensive linemen.
Case in point, Jordan Mailata, 6'8". He's bigger than a front door. He's like a front door with another foot on top.
Look at that big guy.
I'm with you on this because I like teams that I think the reason we have faith in the Eagles and the way they were able to transform and remorph their entire offense was their offensive line. I mean, you look across the board on PFF, it's good marks from left to right. So I'm with you on that front. I mean, I don't think that anyone's saying, actually, smart people would suggest that you have small people up front. That's how you win these games.
But they've been one of the most analytically driven, if not the most, for more than a decade. And they show it in how they spend their money. And they spend their money up front on both sides.
Yeah, I get your larger point. I guess traditional scouting could also tell you having large, talented offensive line is good for your offense as well.
Absolutely, but are their front offices spending a larger portion of their salary cap on it? No, the Eagles really are. They've backed it up pretty much year after year after year.
This was another Greg Trojan horse because it was a slight shot from our Sunday night pod where Dan and I were just offering some questions about analytics that put us into the dunce cap in the corner. You guys don't know anything.
Right. We were suppressive people.
Yeah. We're separate.
This has nothing to do
with that.
You know what I do like?
That's
true, though.
I think one thing here is talented, big offensive line, mobile quarterback who could throw a little bit. That seems to work in the NFL.
That's good.
High floor.
I like that.
Maybe that's the conversation.
Maybe you should be the GM.
Maybe.
Not the
Giants are looking. Get back to the MetLife, Tri-State.
The New York Giants. All right, so tough situation here. So the Giants stink. Let's talk about the favorite head coach moments in Giants history post-Coughlin, 2016 to present. Number 3.
Whoa.
Number 3. Give it to me, baby. Joe Judge. Oh, yeah. Hey, you got to learn how to slide after a slippery football and secure it. I'm one of the guys. I'm Joe Judge. And look at this. Those are the salad days of Joe Judge with the Giants. Number 2. Ben mother friggin' McAdoo in his giant ass suit. Look at the size of that suit. Look at the collar. Look at the gap between the neck and the collar. He had lost a significant amount of weight. And you know what? Maybe you get a new suit for the big presser. That's the only thing people remember Ben McAdoo for.
What about his haircut? When he got the cool haircut a year and a half in.
Cool haircut. He started slicking it back.
That was like
I feel bad for Ben.
High watermark.
And the suit situation, but, you know. And number 1, favorite head coach moment in Giants history, Pat Shurmur on the sideline.
Just feel the excitement.
Standing on the sideline.
The excitement just burning off his body.
Look at that. Look at the stoicism.
We still have 50 more seconds to discuss this.
I think you missed out on the McAdoo haircut. That would be nice. I don't think anyone remembers that Pat Shurmur was the Giants head coach.
No, that's why I had to give him the number 1
Lost
spot.
in time.
I saw
the, I don't want to spoil it, but there is the new Spider-Man film. There is some, a character that was kind of overlooked in the canon that gets his just due in this particular film. And maybe that's what we need to do here. For Pat Shurmur, who gets completely overlooked.
Well, how about McAdoo? I mean, he has about as many playoff appearances. First of all, he has got one more than any other Giants coach. He has as many as Tom Coughlin had in his last 5 or 6 seasons. So McAdoo, underrated.
What happened in that one playoff appearance for Coughlin at the end there?
Well, it was pretty good. Yeah, they
pretty
rolled.
good.
They ran the table.
Beat your team's butt red.
That was the worst Patriots loss of all time. I always say the 2011 season Super Bowl.
Yeah. Nobody said to McAdoo, by the way, hey, you want to size this down?
I mean, in 2001, everyone would have thought that was a perfect fit. That was the style.
It was the gap.
It was
the collar gap. And this comes from a guy wearing the sweater right now. But the collar gap, where he looked like David Byrne from the Talking Heads documentary. Coming up next, NFC North. Oh, look at that. That's a holiday graphic. I told you this was the Christmas special.
Proof.
And now you know it. Maybe by the end of the show, Jason Brooksby will get our producer, a little jingle bells or something. Let's dress this sucker up.
Snow.
Up next, NFC North. Welcome back to the Around the NFL Christmas special. You can tell because I'm wearing this sweater. Now the NFC North. Greg's in mourning, as you can see.
I mean,
I try to support
you can
you
wear
a little
black
bit.
all year
I like
long.
Karamaka.
All year long. Christmas.
One day.
Don't
It's
let it
Christmas
take you.
morning.
That's why you break out like a sweater with buttons. I, won't wear this again for a year either.
Davante Adams is completely unstoppable. This is not breaking news, but it is a reminder. I don't care who you line up opposite number 17. He's going to get his. And especially the goal line stuff. Anytime a Packers goal line drive stalls, and it doesn't happen often, but it does happen occasionally, it's almost always because they just didn't throw it to Davante. They didn't let him just beat somebody with one of those sick moves he has. He's got speed, he's savvy, awesome hands, and he's a born playmaker. And, he's not going to win Offensive Player of the Year this year, but he's been putting up stats that rival anybody ever in the last 5 years.
I also think Matt LaFleur's role in getting Davante Adams is important. And it's one of the reasons I think Matt LaFleur is underrated. You look at the numbers Adams has put up since LaFleur arrived, it's a lot more consistent. It's like Aaron Rodgers, whose numbers dipped. Davante Adams would be the top receiver or one of the top 3 receivers ever, but I'm in the league right now, whether LaFleur was there or not, but he might not have the numbers that he did without him. Like, he finds ways to help get him open each and every week.
I think it's important because everyone knows the train is coming, and he still gets the numbers and the production no matter what. I mean, a lot of that has to do with Rodgers and LaFleur. And, Rodgers sitting there tied with Brett Favre's touchdown record. It would be an opportunity right now to make that be Davante Adams on Christmas Day.
Against your Browns.
I don't like that scenario to some degree, but I like it for them.
Who are the 3 train guys? You know the train's coming and it doesn't matter. Davante Adams, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson.
Oh, we're talking
wide receivers?
Yeah, I think that.
Anybody else deserve to be in that club where it's like, I don't care who you put on me, he's going to get 7 for 110 and a touch or 2?
Cole Beasley.
He's taking himself out of the lineup right now, but when he comes back,
weird choice.
he is gritty as hell. Up next, Greg on the Vikings.
Just when, all hope looks lost, I'm just wondering this weekend, can the Vikings Viking one more time?
One more time.
Yeah. Because I think Viking would actually be them playing really well this week.
Yeah, I was going to ask what you mean.
For some reason, this is the week where it's like, okay, they've won a couple games, but Kirk's not looking right. Things look bleak against the Rams. But I think putting up 38 against the Rams in like a fun, close victory, that would be the Vikings Viking and getting to the playoffs.
That's a dark timeline for the Rams. But the Vikings have been nothing but consistently unpredictable and strange all year. So I could totally see it happening.
Yeah, I could also see a scenario where with no Dalvin Cook, with Adam Thielen either not playing or not being 100%, they do end up scoring 3 or 4 touchdowns on offense and then find a way to blow the game and lose 34-32, and their season is up in flames. Like, this has felt like the end game was always going to be one last crusher to kill the Vikings fan base. So it's a matter, is it going to happen this week, next week, or the week after? We're in that zone now.
It's happening, but I think the key is, can Mike Zimmer's defense make life uncomfortable for Matthew Stafford? The only thing that seems to unspool the Rams are the occasional Stafford mistakes. I think that's not just what they do on offense. I mean, KJ Osborne.
Minnesota has that defense.
I don't think I'm not saying they do, but
Yeah.
they have in a couple games, and it's just like it's 2021, so just roll the dice at this point.
I think their defense has been better than like the yardage allowed. I've seen them, really criticized because their yardage numbers are down. But if you look at the analytics and their pass rush, and when you just watch it, they make life hard on opposing quarterbacks. I think it's a big test for Matthew Stafford.
Thielen, I think, is a skeleton key here. We saw it with A.J. Brown on the Titans. He's so important, I think, for Cousins being comfortable. I think Alexander Mattison will step in, and the run game will be okay. It won't be as special with Dalvin Cook back there. But does Kirk Cousins have a chance here to, again, it's another Kirk Cousins legacy game. I love it. We get one every year.
Yeah.
And here we are again. Mark on the Bears. Oh, boy. 2 minutes for the Bears?
Yeah, I know. I feel like I've gotten this Bears topic 13 weeks in a row, and I guess I'm at the point now where it's like I am breaking up with the Bears. I'm not saying that we were dating, but I'm in that stage where when you try to get out of the relationship and you try to do it in a classy way, you just say, it's not you, it's me. But then privately I'm thinking to myself, it is you.
Well, that's always what it is.
Right.
It is
isn't
you,
that,
of
isn't
course.
that, it's not you, it's me always means it's right.
No
Yeah,
one's
that's what
buying, but you just say that so that you don't
okay.
say it is you. I don't want to have the confrontation. This is a.
So who's you, though, in this scenario?
Well,
the entire operation?
You is the current Bears personality and what they are. You have failed to capture my imagination for years on end. I think the Bears in general need to go on something close to like a vision quest to think what is it we want to be? Because we tried to be the same thing for so long. It's not worked out. And I'm not even mentioning Matt Nagy because I'm so tired of the whole subject. But I am breaking up, and I'm not saying another word until this 1 minute and 3 seconds is done.
Yeah, they need to find a Sean McVay. They need to find a Cliff Kingsbury. They need to find someone who can unlock Justin Fields. And until they do, they're going to keep going in circles. And it's, you can make Matt Nagy the punching bag and say he's everything that's wrong with this team. But it's systemic. It's bigger than that. The Bears have been boring forever. And it's just like at some point they need to kind of blow things up a little bit here. You do potentially have a quarterback, and that's the most important thing, but there's so much work to do.
And they're going to. And they have to play 3 more football games in the meantime. So it's up to you whether you want to watch it. Justin Fields may or may not.
In your house at that point, so.
I thought you said you weren't saying another word for the minute and 3. I mean,
I can't
only
keep
made it like 40
I
seconds there. Andy Dalton might be back in our lives. Might be a Dalton versus Russell Wilson game here. I drafted this game on our podcast. Might have been a mistake.
Maybe we
didn't know.
Stay away
Justin
from,
Fields was kind of the reason I wanted to watch it, and he might not be involved.
It's like, with the ongoing COVID pandemic.
What?
How you're seeing some like New Year's Eve shows melt away. It's like, hey, citing concerns. No show this year. Why are the Bears? Just do that. It's like citing COVID concerns.
Right.
We'll see you in September.
Among other concerns.
You just give a W to the last 3 teams. Who's complaining?
Not Bears fans. Yeah, they want the pick. They want the higher pick.
They'll get their Sundays back, or Mondays and Sunday nights with the primetime games. Maron, enough.
Yeah, help us out here, please.
Lions. Oh, this is me. The Lions. In praise of Jared Goff, who, by the way, when I first thought about talking about Jared Goff for today's program, it was Jared Goff who would be playing on Sunday. He's probably not going to play because he is on the COVID-19 list. But I just want to say, in what's been a very difficult, really 3-year run for Jared Goff in his career, I thought he's come through this season as a man of high character. He is on a team that he does not fit into the future, but he's a professional. He's showed up every week. He has made some big throws. He's had some genuine moments. I don't know where his career goes from here, but when they were winless in the end of November and he was not playing well, it was just like, oof, this is really depressing. Now he's had some nice moments to take his career wherever it goes next, even if it's 1 more year in Detroit.
I totally agree with everything you said. It's disappointing that he gets put on the COVID list right in time for this week's game against the Falcons, which could have been a nice 2-game winning streak, and the Falcons are usually where you pile up some more nice numbers. But I think the way he plays and sort of his attitude, where it wasn't a lot of like excitement when he was with the Rams, that might be a good thing when you're a winless team. Like, I don't think Jared Goff seemed overly bothered by it all. It was just like, I'm just going to be Jared Goff throwing my 7-yard throws. And I think where he's going to be next year is quarterbacking the Detroit Lions. I think he might have some competition with a younger player, but I don't think he's going to be anywhere different.
Yeah, I think you keep him around. I mean, I'm kind of with you with the way he handled the whole thing, because I think we knew from post-free agency, post-draft, this was a veteran, former Super Bowl quarterback that was put into a really tough situation, surrounded by very little. Like, Amon-Ra St. Brown, though, has grown as well. So I think this team is going to be spicier next year, and maybe it's Goff versus someone else. But Goff has done a good job. Now, there have been some games where he's been an ultra disaster, too, let's be real. But that has a lot to do with surrounding talent.
I guess I know the Lions are a good story this year. I'm not ready to say, like, I feel like they're going to be a team next year, but why not?
They're like more of a 4 or 5 win team right now that happens to have.
What is a 7 or 8 win team in the NFL anymore, anyways?
That's the Lions fan. They'd be like, that's a dynasty.
I know, but I'm just saying that's not out of reach. Like, it's across, 40 years across the desert for them. We'll see.
All right. We'll see. Reason for optimism. All right, there you go. That's the NFC North. Oh, look at the wrapping, and then the shield comes out. That's branding.
Holidays.
Oh, boy.
We're into it.
Coming up next, the NFC South, which features the Bucs, who all of a sudden are in a lot of danger. And there's Cam Newton running with the football. Enjoy it. Enjoy it while it lasts. All right, welcome back to the broadcast. Merry Christmas, Greg. Some issues, though, in the NFC South with the defending champs.
Yeah, it was hard to know who's even going to be on the field for them this week. So while the offensive players all kind of fall apart, Ndamukong Suh stands tall. I just wanted to be positive about a team that's
Well, you had a nice rhyme
very
scheme there.
positive.
If you just read the copy and then you broke it up, and now you lose the rhyme
I'd
scheme.
reread it, Greg.
Yeah,
I mean,
give it another shot.
I did some research. 97% of people watch this show with the sound off. It's like on in bars, early morning alcohol.
Well, it's captioning, right?
Right, at 6 in the morning.
Early.
People are at the cozy. But if you are listening while offensive players fall, Ndamukong Suh stands tall. He's playing so well. He's one of the most
Worth it.
weirdly underpaid players in the NFL over the last 3 years because no one ever wants him in free agency for some reason. And then he's way better than all the defensive tackles that signed for like $13 or $14 million a year.
Maybe it was the $1 trillion contract he got before then,
Right.
and now
it was
it's
fine.
all evening
It's
out.
been fine. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about him, but it is a strange thing happening.
I don't know why Greg needs to take a shot at the Cozy Inn in Culver City. I mean,
It's
they're
not a
enough
shot.
to play
They
the
open at
program.
6 a.m., right? And
I'm
that
aware
is
of that,
for
yeah.
people that have a problem, but we're going to help you
shifters.
with it.
It's not a problem. They're
late-shift
third
workers.
shifters.
The solution.
Shift worker.
The solution.
I'm going to tell you one thing. The Bucks all year long, it's like a parent with like a prodigy child where you're like, we're good. We got this. This child's just going to grow into something great. They have the Panthers, the Jets, and the Panthers. I know they're down a bunch of guys. They didn't look the same against the Saints. They're going to go 3-0 and wrap it up and roll
Sure.
into the playoffs.
Wow, great call, Mark. And I'll also say this: if
No
you
one
were-
heard it, apparently.
If you were smart enough to pick up Ronald Jones in your fantasy league, if you're still in the playoffs, like this guy, congratulations, you just won a title. Nothing could go wrong now.
That's the trenchant update that we needed.
There's been a couple injuries there, though, that I think got less attention. Levante David's on injured reserve. Yikes. Antoine Winfield.
COVID, right?
On injured reserve with a foot injury. And Antoine Winfield, who's been much better in his second season, and he was great as a rookie, kind of the key to that secondary. Also out, might not be back for a few weeks. It's a lot of injuries.
And Lenny Fournette is
gone, too.
Is gone
Don't like
right now,
that.
too, hence the Rojo situation. All right, Panthers. All right, everybody. Take a long look at Cam these last few weeks. It could be the last chance you get. Cam Newton's return to the Panthers.
Dire.
He was out of the league, obviously, so nobody was calling him, most likely, before the Panthers got into panic mode. And what we've seen since he's returned, other than, there's been some flashes, but he can't really play the game at a high level anymore. Unfortunately, he can still run the football, but there's a lot of guys who can run the football. And I think there's more than I'll put it at 50-50, maybe 60-40, that these are the last games of his NFL career.
Wow. I would put it at, I would need to know what Cam Newton wants. If he wants to keep playing football and be a backup,
Do you think, does
Then-
that strike
I
you
don't
as
think-
knowing
I-
Cam the way we've known him the last 10
ultimately,
years?
I think he's going to adjust, and so yes. So I would say there's like a 90% chance he's back because this is a league where Chase Daniel's still getting checks, where Garrett Gilbert just started a game. Cam Newton is better than so many backup quarterbacks
That's not just
out there.
the discussion, though. I think Cam is
But why
a
are we
certain
projecting
kind of
that he won't?
personality.
I think, he'd have to adjust, but I think we've seen that
There's a
already.
difference between him and Garrett Gilbert.
I think
I don't know.
He's
if
a
Cam,
tough backup. He's a tough backup because I think he's just our eyes are drawn to him. I mean, this whole thing to me felt like they did a great job bringing him back for one Sunday, and we have the hoopla and the social media accounts go crazy. But it's turned into something that I think has created chaos. It's not Cam's fault, but there's chaotic at that position. It just.
But they
feels
love
like,
what he's brought as like a guy behind the scenes. And one thing I
Do
noticed,
they? Matt Rule does not sound
especially
extremely pleased with the Cam Newton experience.
all he does is talk about how he loves how hard he wants to be coached, how good he is as a worker. And I have noticed since he came back with Carolina, I think he's knowing now where he is in his career. And I thought Joe Flacco, for instance, was a guy that would never accept like a backup job. A lot of times these guys usually want it. Cam Newton's a lot better than Joe Flacco was at the point when he switches to back. I think he's got 7-8 more years in the NFL if he wants it.
You're turning the conversation in a different direction. It's not an anti-Cam thing or not like a Cam talent thing. It's just, I wonder if he's
said he
made a
couldn't
ton
play.
of money. He doesn't play the football at a high level anymore, but he could play. He could be somebody's clipboard holder. I wonder if Cam has other plans in his life. I don't
You're
know.
saying Cam Newton 8 years from now. I'm not sure I need
Right, that was an
necessarily
exaggeration. That was too much. My point is he seems to love the game so much that I think this year will be humbling enough that he's just going to slide into backup Cam role.
We will find out. Mark on the Saints.
Well, I know that, I think Sean Payton probably thinks that he's smarter than all of us. And I'm not saying that he is or he isn't. I think he's a great coach of the year candidate, in my opinion, had they done a little bit more. But I think this is his chance right now to prove it. Because you want to talk about a team that's dealt with total chaos at the quarterback position. Some of it their own doing, post-Drew Brees. But I think this is a great spot for Sean to basically say, look, I don't care about the other Seans, Sean McVay and Sean McDermott. I'm going to show you what I can do with Ian Book in this offense. Greg, it looks like he ate a lemon while I'm saying this, so I know he doesn't agree, but I trust him. I trust this coach more than almost any coach outside of Belichick.
Why are you still hanging on to this like Sean Payton Coach of the Year stuff? I think he's got to take a little bit of heat. The Taysom Hill thing has not worked out. The Jameis Winston move, okay, you can make an argument that he was okay before he got hurt, but I don't think that was necessarily a great move.
They swept the Bucs. And it's not just their offense.
They've done an incredible job coaching. They've done a terrible job building the roster in terms of their offense.
Why we got to throw flowers at the feet of Sean Payton this season?
I'm saying for a string of time, he was a Coach of the Year candidate in my book. Is he right now? Of course he's not going to win that award. But I think Sean Payton took this year on as a transition year, not unlike last year's Patriots, and said, I accept that challenge. Well, this is going a little deep down the well.
The problem is they have the best defense they've maybe ever had. And as Saints fans, it's killing them that you have this defense, which is not a transition type of defense. They're one of the highest paid defense in the league. When you had all those lousy Dennis Allen defenses with Drew Brees when they were lighting up, if you could have matched those up, that's a Super Bowl champion. Yeah. And now you've got a lousy offense.
Let's give him an award for it. What are we doing here?
No, I'm with Mark. You give most coaches that group, they are not winning 7 games. They swept the Bucs. It's kind of amazing.
Another staff would have 2 or 3 wins. That's all.
All right,
They're spicy. That's all.
By the transitive property, is Kevin James also smarter than us? That's a fair question. Now that's a conversation.
He's richer than us.
I would say he's probably smarter than me if I had to guess.
Kevin
I don't
James.
know him personally.
I'm not. That's not.
I just feel like
James in a big spot.
I just feel like he's come along. He's had a pretty great run here. He's taken what he has.
We're talking Kevin
James,
okay.
And he's maxed it out. And it probably, to me, that's probably like intelligence. It's not like it's not just pure comedy skill.
Mark on the Falcons.
The Falcons. Well,
I'm going
all right.
Kevin James. Let's talk James.
I'm done with the Falcons' playoff contention situation, but is it too early? I don't think it is to talk about Matt Ryan landing spots. Are we sure? I know the financials make it hard to get rid of Matt Ryan next season. But I kind of feel like for this organization to move forward, trading Matt Ryan makes a little bit of sense. I have thought of one team that I really think could be a landing spot. And tell me what you think.
Guess. The 49ers.
Nope. What? 49ers have Trey Lance. Why would it be them?
Because he'd be a nice little
They have Trey Lance in theory. I don't know. Panthers.
Nope.
What?
The Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin wants a veteran quarterback. Ugh. They need one.
They need another molasses veteran.
Right. I'm not saying it's going to work out great, but Greg, I thought you were a Matt Ryan guy.
I am, but it would be an upper middle class man's Ben Roethlisberger right now. It's not really a huge.
Well, all right. So, what percentage chance do you think that he's on the Falcons next year? Again, the money part of it makes it a little tricky, but that stuff I feel like can get finessed.
And it's not that tricky. You have to eat a lot of dead money, but you actually would save cap room to trade him this offseason. So this is the first offseason they could. I anticipate he'd be on the Falcons. I'd give it a 65% chance.
I could see if things went south, let's say, with the Seahawks, maybe he ends up in Seattle with Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. But I also think there's going to be a team out there that's going to look at Matt Ryan potentially and be like, oh, he's our Matthew Stafford. We're going to bring him into a better situation. But I think that would be a bad idea because I think Matt Ryan is no longer a very good quarterback.
He's turning 37 next year.
He's not young.
I tend to think Matt Ryan is harder to replace than you think. Unless you're getting a huge upgrade like Rodgers or Russell Wilson, which is going to be very difficult to accomplish, then you're not going to upgrade veteran and just find a young player to replace Matt Ryan, but you keep Ryan around for one more year.
It's funny because I think, for me anyway, Big Ben and Matt Ryan are in the same bucket to me. Former great quarterbacks who are very hard to watch now. I do not like watching Falcons games, and Ryan is a part of that. It's because, of course, his offensive line and some skill player issues, but it's a little bit sad.
I think the Big Ben thing is a little sadder than the sadness surrounding Matt Ryan's play.
But that's Ryan in 2 years.
One guy's in the playoff race and one guy's
I think Tomlin wants a veteran versus starting over with a rookie.
I'm just saying.
One game apart, you know.
Oh, you know.
1.5.
Oh, no. Come on. All right, coming up next, we take a pause from Division Talk for a sponsored segment we call Who's Better? And I won't tell you the sponsors until after the break, but you're going to be blown away.
It's a great sponsor.
All right, it's time now for Who's Better, presented by Truist. Who's better? The Cowboys defense in 1995, that was the last championship team for the Cowboys, or this team right now?
Ooh.
Mark, I know you got an answer.
I do. It's the 95 team. I mean, they won the Super Bowl. I mean, we have yet to see what this defense can evolve into this year's team. But that had Russell Maryland. It had Darren Woodson. Leon Lett. Charles Haley. They were dominant. They were absolutely dominant.
Got hurt, I believe.
Dion was on the Niners at this point.
Dion had moved
he's on it.
Yeah.
He's on it.
Oh, no, he was
He came
there.
back.
This was brought up this week by Jerry Jones, saying he believes this is the best offense or defense that since that 95. So that's the framework
Just enjoy the
here.
B-roll, everybody.
Look at, the B-roll is beautiful. I miss these.
Those big old
shoulder pads. Those stats, the fact that they were so even, and one was playing in 95 when there was so much less offense, and one's playing in 2021. I'm going to go 21 just to annoy you guys because everyone's better in 21. The players are way better. It's
Babe
true.
Ruth wouldn't even have hit 100 if
But
he
it's
played
true.
in the
Like
big leagues
athletics,
today.
athletes get better, so they're better now.
I know, but that's such a cop-out in the
I would take it now, though, also because of the numbers. If the numbers are about the same,
Okay. There's definitely the playmaker component of the 21 Cowboys is interesting. But when you rely as much on turnovers as they do, is that sustainable? We'll see.
If they make the Super Bowl, that's where you.
We never would have said that a month ago, but okay.
All right, number 2. Who's better? What's better?
Who's better?
Christmas films, A Christmas Story, the great Peter Billingsley classic, or Christmas Vacation, National Lampoons, the old Chevy Chase picture from '89. Greggy, get us going. We know you're a holiday guy, as we can tell from your dress.
I'm a Christmas Story guy. I would say, you wouldn't think with the last name Rosenthal that Christmas Story was on, but old Tommy, he had this on TNT, or was it TBS? I don't even remember it. All 24 hours. So I would go Christmas Story. But they're both great.
I think Christmas Story is one of my favorite movies ever. Holiday, July, June, January. I'm in all the way. Christmas Story. Mark, where do you come down?
Best Christmas film is Eyes Wide Shut. I wouldn't say it's one that you gather the whole family around the hearth to witness as a group, but you could witness it on your own.
Eyes Wide Shut. What is that?
Go look at
film
the
again?
symbology. It's Tom Cruise.
I'm sneaky a bigger Christmas guy than Mark. I mean, you're getting on me for the black sweater, but I get made fun of in my house for being too big a
there
Christmas
are dense
guy.
studies.
Mark's watching movies about like couples sharing partners.
No. There are dense studies showing that Eyes Wide Shut is absolutely a Christmas film.
And this is just a matter of child protection. If we find out that you're introducing that film to your young sons, we need to step in.
I'm not doing that. Why would you even suggest that?
What if they watch this show? Now they're, Daddy, what's Eyes Wide Shut?
They are not interested in this show, from all I gather.
Did that end the Cruise Kidman marriage, or was it the high point?
Good question. All right.
Why are you twisted?
Get us to the commercial as soon as possible, Dan.
That was Who's Better, presented by Truist. Coming up next, we move on to the AFC, starting with the East. Ooh, big stuff going down in that division. Welcome to Hour 2 of the Around the NFL broadcast. Dan Hansis, Greg Rosenthal, Mark Sessler. Greg's going to deliver a eulogy a little later in this Christmas special. And just everyone...
This is more really a Navy, really.
No, it's not, Greg. Greg is colorblind, by the way.
We're airing on NFL Network on Christmas morning, that coveted 4 a.m. Pacific, 7 a.m. Eastern time slot. And it did get us thinking, what if, and let's check this out, this tweet, what if someone leaves the TV on, and Santa, who's on a schedule, he's on a deadline, is so transfixed by what we do that bang, he sits down with the cookies in the biggest of all spots, and he's watching our show, and all of a sudden, India doesn't get their Christmas presents.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that on my resume. I hope that Santa would stay focused and professional.
I mean, he looks comfortable. That 4 a.m. is totally a time I would watch TV sometimes on Christmas morning, because I get up, get the stockings, and then you're like, well, I got to wait for my parents for 3 hours. Just turn us on.
Unbelievable. All right, Santa, wherever you're at right now, buddy, good work. Let's move to the AFC East. And let's start with the AFC East leading, for now anyway, New England Patriots. Greg, Mark.
Mark will go. It's about Greg, though. I'd say let's help Greg fall in love again.
This was Dan's bit a week ago.
Well, no, I think it needs, because it's a movement that has not yet happened. So I am tacking on to the movement. We all love Greg. He is a bit of a, what would you say, a bit of a hyper-contrarian on some level. I mean,
I think just contrarian isn't enough.
No.
I think hyper is...
I could walk by a river with Greg and point out that water flows, and he would find a way to tell me that's not the case.
Desert.
But here's the thing. Greg's contrarianism has, or some version of his contrarianism has bled into his Patriots fandom. He was a young boy that, he got on board when the Patriots stunk way back, and then he rode that journey, that ride that so many other Patriots fans did. I don't know if he got too tired of the success or what's going on, but he's been very down on this Patriots team.
I haven't been very down at all on them. I just think they're like a good team.
He's not going to agree with what I've just said, but there is an energy where
you've
Greg's
held back
fandom,
a little bit.
Right.
You've been holding back.
You pulled away from your fandom.
I've lost a little bit of. First of all, I feel like our fandom and how much we talk about it is one of the most boring things to talk about. Like, it's
trying
true.
to chop down your topic there.
No, I just am saying, like, I'm not that interested in it. I have noticed that I'm a little less of a fan than I used to of the Patriots, but it's not having to do with this particular team. It's just like you get old. I don't know.
So it's not boring to suggest that my children are watching all sorts of insane things that I'm screaming inside my house, which is not Ackerman level. But we're trying to discuss the Patriots and what they need to do to win you over.
I don't feel like I need to go down this road again, but I'll quickly say I think Greg, after getting 6 Super Bowl championships and 9 Super Bowl appearances in 20 years, said, "Oh, I'm going to jump out now. I got that." And
it wasn't a conscious thing. If anything, it makes me sad.
I'll become the guy that covers all the teams and roots for good stories.
No.
And now it's a little complicated because he wants to get on board.
I root for like a lot of teams and enjoy a lot of teams. It does make me a little sad when I'm watching and you don't feel the same thing, but that's fine. Like, it's once you like reach the peak, are you going to be that excited about whatever's next? Not really.
Well,
it's fine.
Do you think Bill Belichick should be that excited about what's happening now? Or
what does he have to do with me? I'm like living in California. I haven't lived in Massachusetts in 25 years.
Greg, how about the Bills?
I think the Bills are a dangerous team here this Sunday for the Patriots. But I do want to see like Josh Allen show up and kind of like be the Josh Allen that everyone in Buffalo has said he is in my mentions over and over. How dare you like not rate Josh Allen in the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks?
Where's
like last year, how come he's not the MVP? He's 6 right now. I have him. I have him behind Burrow and
Seems
Herbert.
fair.
I think that's totally fair. Show up, like carry your team. Be that guy. Be the absolute franchise quarterback who is not going to let his team get swept by this Patriots team who is not as talented as yours. Just carry your team.
This is a huge moment in this entire regime for the Bills because it is a put up or shut up moment. And if the Bills go quietly to the Patriots here, it is going to really, in a lot of ways, expose them as A, a potential pretender, and B, a team that potentially peaked as a group already without really even sniffing getting back to the Super Bowl. Let's see what happens.
Raises a ton of questions. I mean, Sean McDermott, I think, is one of the more level-headed, serene guys. He doesn't like blow up at the press and stuff. When does he look the most agitated we've ever seen him after that Patriots game? I mean, it's not just this week or where Josh Allen's at. It's this opponent. Like, if you're the Bills and we spent all 6-7 months talking about you as the shoe-in #1 seed if the Chiefs stumbled, and it's the Patriots that are taking you out if they win this week and win that division, that is something that Bills fans, I mean, it's like the darkest possible
There is
nightmare.
another dynamic here, by the way. You've never been less of a Patriots fan, and Mark has never been more of a Patriots fan. It's almost like you swapped fandoms. Like, who do you want to win more in Week 16, Mark? The Browns or the Patriots?
The Browns.
Be honest.
I would want the Browns to win more because that's happening in the middle of like Christmas morning where we live. But I've always been a Belichick guy.
I am too. Of course, I'm a Belichick guy. This would be a bad time for McDermott because he can't win a close game right now. He acts all quiet, but like underneath he makes incredibly emotional, terrible decisions in terms of game management. He's one of the more emotional coaches I feel like during the games on Sunday.
I kind of get where
he's kind of the quiet
that
storm.
vibe a little bit.
All right, how about the Dolphins? 6 games in a row they've now won. And just when I was ready to dismiss the Dolphins as strength of schedule darlings who should not be taken seriously, they get the Saints. And Ian Book, the 4th-round rookie, making the first start of his career. Wow.
Wait, so you are dismissing them?
Oh, wow me, Dolphins, with a big performance against Ian Book and the Saints. I can't wait for the 6-game winning streak to become 7. So then I can become invested in this Dolphins team like I should be.
This has been one of the better Dan bits of the entire season because the Dolphins.
You locked them up on Sunday. Monday.
They're helping you out. I'm telling you something. This Saints game is a dangerous stop for them. I have a spidey sense on that front. I really do. But you know who doesn't mind the schedule? The 250 people that were about to lose their jobs when this team was 1-7. They don't care who they're playing.
Whoa.
Keep doing Dolphins
Wow.
things.
You get it.
Yeah, he's got the perspective. He sees the big picture. It's about family.
It's about people. It's a people sport.
Because it's like everyone thinks of the head coach, but what they don't think about is there's assistants, there's families.
Scouts.
Especially
the
at
trainer's
this time of year, and in the wake of what we've been through as a society, it's time to think
put it in perspective,
in a broader way.
Here's the thing. Ian Book is starting against the Dolphins. Okay, that helps him out. You know who could have won last Sunday night against the defending champion Buccaneers at quarterback? Ian Book.
Thank you.
Like, Taysom Hill didn't score.
Thank you,
he
what?
didn't do anything.
Because I was telling you about Ian Book earlier on.
I'm saying the Saints defense won that game. They didn't give up any points. If they don't give up any points this week, they're going to win.
About Ian Book, Mark. Why should Ian Book be a guy to be taken seriously in this start against a very good Dolphins
Sean
defense?
Payton believes
Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah, Notre Dame. They've won one national title in 70 years.
Relatively considered to have a noodle arm, but I'm just saying that I'm not saying he's the son
All right,
that
so
we
noodle
revolve
arm,
around.
Notre Dame. What else?
They're only 3-point
Winningest
favorites.
all-time quarterback at Notre Dame, according to our production staff. It's not Ian Book. It's coaching around Ian Book. They coached around Taysom Hill last week.
I feel pretty good about my Dolphins here with the lock of the week.
Check in with me on Sunday night.
All right, let's move on to Mark on the New York Jets.
Well, we have
sweater.
180 more minutes of Jets football. And again,
2 minutes for the Jets.
I got the Bears
That
topic.
seems
I got the Jets
excessive.
topic. 180 more minutes, Dan. I would say this, though. I know you're very disappointed by this season, but there is optimism because of what Joe Douglas has done in terms of stacking draft picks. Would you rather have Jamal Adams right now? I know you wouldn't. So I would just ask you, with all the things they need going into the offseason, I know that there's even questions at quarterback. What is the number one Jets need? Like, let's just get past these regular seasons.
In these 180 minutes, 3 games, they need the quarterback to show that he's not a bust. That's what they need. And you could tell me, shut up, Dan. It's way too early to freak out about Zach Wilson, but I've been on this train too often. Show me something before the season is over. You know what something is? Something isn't, oh, well, he had a good quarter. Oh, he had a good half. Oh, he had a good opening drive. How about good 4 quarters of football? And then follow that up with another good game so we can at least go into the offseason not wondering if we have Josh Rosen on our hands. Like that, I'm already at that place as a Jets fan. A lot of Jets fans are not at that place. I already am there because it's been such a dispiriting rookie year by Wilson. It just makes you wonder what's next.
It's one of the worst rookie quarterback seasons we've seen. I think you're right to be worried, but one thing they can do is beat the Jaguars. Hey, COVID's coming to New York. You know, it takes out.
Oh, it's already here.
It takes out a lot of. I think there's 17 players on the COVID list. Zach Wilson, don't lose to the Jaguars. It's kind of embarrassing to lose to the Jaguars. Have a nice game in a good spot here.
I mean, if you're gonna have another bad game, Zach Wilson, don't do it in a 10-7 win over the Jaguars. Let's get the L. Let's maybe sneak into contention for the number 1 overall pick. And just think, how sad is it that we're talking Jaguars, Jets here in December, and nobody's even like, it's the number 1 pick against the number 2 pick. It's Trevor Lawrence against Zach Wilson. That's how bad this year has been for both teams. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
That was a downer. I mean, I'm wearing the black, but you're bringing the coal.
Well, a lot of black and blues on this Jets fan for the past decade. We'll get more on that. Look at that. Snowman. That's how you know this is the Christmas special. We went all out. Up next, I didn't want to do the show anymore after we talked about the Jets. Why do we need to talk about the Jets?
I don't know why it needed to be 2 minutes.
AFC North coming up next on the broadcast. All right, welcome back to the Around the NFL broadcast. It's time now to hit the AFC North division. And Greg, let's start with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Big weekend for the Bengals. Joe Burrow's legs are one reason I'm excited.
Reason to believe.
I think they're a reason to believe. I think he's changed throughout the course of the season in terms of his mobility and his willingness to run. Last week, I thought that was the difference in the Broncos game. Vic Fangio had a great game plan that really flummoxed Zach Taylor and Burrow for the most part. And it was just Burrow making plays on his own after getting pressured or deciding to run in key spots. That was the difference. And he's gotten better and added parts to his game all throughout the course of the season. And that's one reason I do believe in them this week against the Ravens.
I mean, I think that every body part of Joe Burrow is a reason to believe because he's that guy. I think he's going to be the best quarterback in this division for a long time. But you are so right about the Broncos, that game. I mean, he had only 2 games all season where he had more than 11 yards rushing. So it hasn't been part of his arsenal the way it is for others. But it was a difference in that game right there. And I just want to see them give it to Joe Burrow and just say, you handle this from here on out. You take us to the playoffs. If they handle this game against the Ravens, it changes what we think about Cincinnati top to bottom. No?
It's like every week. It's like if Taj Boyd drops that pass last week in Denver and they lose and score 7 points or 6 points in the loss, we're talking about something completely different about the Bengals right now. They're right on. It seems like their whole season is on like this high wire, and I don't know. I think ultimately they're going to end up in the net below. Hopefully they installed the net, the safety net.
Yeah,
You'd like to think so.
Yeah, you would think so.
I mean, but they get the Ravens at the right time.
They do.
It's still a big division game, and no matter who's available for the Ravens, it's like they're still the Ravens, and it's for first place in the AFC North, and it's after Christmas. It's like there haven't been a lot of Bengals games like this. Go win a ball game.
That's the psych warfare I'm talking about, because I think we just think, oh, Baltimore's up here, Cincinnati is always down here. Like, these are the games that are Joe Burrow's legacy. They wiped them out the first time, but no one remembers that. That's months ago.
Little Joe Burrow year 2 legacy talk. I like it.
I think it's possible.
Early in the game, and I'm into it. All right. Speaking of the Ravens, nobody wants it. Nobody wants this division, Ravens. Might as well take it. Take it. You were out in front, and it was your division, and then you started to struggle, and then your quarterback got hurt, and the division still doesn't want it. So why don't you go and take the division and play a home game and see what happens? Maybe your luck in the playoffs is different this time around. So you're at Cincinnati. We just talked about it. This is a coin flip game in terms of how this can turn out. You could even see them as Baltimore as an underdog because Tyler Huntley's there. But also, like, Tyler Huntley's been maybe better than Lamar Jackson has been the last few weeks. It's not a huge drop-off if there is a drop-off. Then you get home against L.A., another tough game, the Rams, and then home against Pittsburgh. So it's not on a silver platter. But if the rest of the division is going to keep the door open for you to work through your issues, go win 2 out of 3, and then all of a sudden you got a home game in the first.
They're just like, who are the Ravens, though? I started this week picking the Ravens and believing Tyler Huntley can go win it. It looks like he's going to be starting. I think he's played well enough to win. But they had 13 players at their practice on Thursday on defense. The replacements to all the guys who are hurt and have COVID now have COVID and are hurt. And now you're bringing in third stringers, and you literally don't even have like a full roster of players to put out there. And so, yeah, maybe you can still win a ball game, but it's like, who are they? They're just like an organizational structure in a uniform right now.
Our friend Evan Silva points out that Tyler Huntley had a draftable grade by one team only. It was the Ravens. So I kind of love what they've done with him and where he is. But I'm with you on the division in general.
Which is crazy, by the way. He was all Pac-10 over Justin Herbert.
No, it was absurd. I mean, but this AFC North, it's like a bunch of like friends at one of those like revolving doors where it's like we don't really know each other. Like, you go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. It's like just someone get in.
Is that an Eyes Wide Shut reference?
Yeah, that's where they drop the keys off.
One of those like giant circular things where it's like who goes in first. It's like no one wants to do it. So I'm out of here. It's like,
yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, but like that could be on me. I didn't quite.
Like one of these circular revolving
at a
doors
hotel
where, like,
or whatever.
Two kids or something don't know who. Like if 2 kids go in, they get smashed by it. So you got to have an organized order, and the AFC North does not know the order, and neither do I.
Now I got it. I like
All
it.
Right. Well,
I'm in. How about Greg on the Steelers?
This Steelers team. I feel like we say the same thing every week, so let's just like get in the spirit of the holidays and just talk Mike Tomlin. He makes me happy. Like, what is your favorite Tomlinism. It's been a game that's gone around Pittsburgh and their media this week. They put out a lot of things that he said. This is way down the list. That things he's only said one time during the year. I like gives you that tingle. I like Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I like I like it all. It's just like
bastardized zones.
I like that there were things that he had said 40 times over the course of the season. This was the very end of the list where it was just like things he said once.
I like we're in a hot kitchen.
It's the way he talks. The way he talks.
That's an Eyes Wide
beautiful.
Shut reference.
Possibly. At this point, I'll just say yes.
Yeah.
It's working. The Tomlinisms work.
Can I see the list again? I had one that I did like because I thought it actually is, in terms of life, it jumps out to me. I like we eat or do not. That's life. You either eat or you don't eat. There are people that get to eat, and there are people who do not get to eat, and that's how life goes.
One of my favorite ones was never say never, but never. That was a good one. Last week was last week. This week was this week. Next week will be next week. That's another one.
There's a lot of logic to what he's saying. It's almost you can't really argue it because he's that guy.
Where are you, Mark? It's been a weekly thing. You're really into this 8-8-1 Steelers finish.
We're heading there. It's perfect.
You're still confident that's where this ends up?
I sort of suggested exactly what needed to happen game by game. They don't need to follow all my rules.
Well, you picked them to win this week in Kansas City. I know the Chiefs have a lot of COVID issues, no Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. So that would mean that the Steelers look like they're going to win the division, and then lose 2 straight to get to 8-8-1. That's how it would have to happen.
Uh-oh.
You do have the hard part out of the way. You got the tie.
I mean, it's the table is set.
Right.
We're not going to get here again for a quarter century.
If they're 7-7 right now, or 8-6 right now, and you're saying 8-8-1, it's not that crazy. But you got the tie, so now we just need them to be kind of middling the rest of the way.
80%.
That's who they are.
Yeah.
Mark on your Cleveland Browns, your beloved Browns.
All right. Dark Xmas descends.
Well, I'll tell you about a dark Xmas. Be a Jets fan.
All right. Well, I'm just saying Dark Xmas descends on the Green Bay
the Packers. This guy over here with the upset prediction.
Cleveland's going to just roll in and get their butts kicked in Green Bay on Christmas Day. Every Browns fan's going to be, taking the Christmas tree and lighting it on fire and throwing it in the street. Well, maybe not. Maybe because the Browns under Stefanski, they have these heartbreakers. Then they come back and rebound in a way that you wouldn't expect. That's what this is. On a weird day in Wisconsin, Cleveland shows up. The one thing I'd say about that Raiders game, I was proud of the Browns team after that. Like they fought through a lot. Well, it may not mean a thing to them, but I do think that there's something about that.
Baker Mayfield is like watching the show right now with the tear rolling down his face.
Oh, finally proud.
Are they giving up on this season? No, they're not. And I think that Green Bay is clearly the better football team, no doubt about it. But Cleveland is going to have a little trick up their sleeve.
It is funny that this Nick Mullins game where it's like, oh, wow, you're competitive against a lousy Raiders team, really changed my view of the Browns and Mark's, because it did. I don't know why it did, but it did. And I think they match up really well with the Packers. That's why the Rainmaker came out on our podcast. And even if they don't win, I think they're going to cover 7.5 points. They run the ball really well, and the Packers' run defense has been terrible the last 2 weeks. The pass rush for Cleveland can get after Aaron Rodgers with the tackle situation in Green Bay still not all the way healthy. I think their strengths match up and that this is going to be a really good Christmas Day game. If you're going to make me watch football and kind of slow down that family time on Christmas, make it a great game. It should be good.
I mean, we're contractually obligated to watch it via
I'm just saying 2 games is a little much for me.
All right, so that's all good. 34-17 Packers.
Oh.
I don't agree. I do not.
Another lump of coal from old Kansas.
Just raining.
I mean, can we just count the Browns' optimism because they almost beat the worst Raiders team we've seen since last December's Raiders team?
Hey, how about the Packers? Trailing at halftime against the Bears, barely beat Tyler Huntley the last 2 weeks. Just saying, the Browns can be competitive.
Well, is 34-17 competitive?
Door open.
No, that's not competitive.
Well, then that's not true then. All right. AFC West. And by the way, the Browns could still win their division even if they lose against the Packers.
I don't need that. I don't need that.
It was a white Christmas in Massachusetts, Christmas Eve.
Nice.
No falling at my parents.
AFC West up next. That's nice. I like that. Welcome back to the Around the NFL broadcast Christmas special.
They're like,
coming up.
Sit up in your chair, Greg. Okay.
Coming up later, Don
That's a
Ho
boy.
performs Silent Night. But before that, we hit the AFC West.
Sorry for stepping on your jokes. It's just a bad habit of mine.
No, that's fine. Mark on the Chiefs.
Here we go. Chiefs. Well, there's all sorts of players
Don
out.
Ho alive?
potentially.
Probably not. Let me check on that. Go ahead, Mark.
You check while I do this thing.
Okay.
I would just say, is it time for
okay.
Andy Reid just to dial it back to 1971 based on the opponent you have this week, the Pittsburgh Steelers? Only one team in the league has a worse rush defense per game right now.
Yes.
It's the Texans. Whenever you're saying the Texans, only the Texans are worse than you at something, you got a big problem. They've given up 443 rushing yards over the last 2 weeks. How about Kansas City? Just hit them on the ground.
This is what they told us they were going to do all offseason, and the tape heads were watching some zone run scheme they were running in preseason and be like, watch out for the Chiefs. It's going to be a totally different running game. You sign Joe Tooney for all this money. You get Orlando Brown in that big-time trade. Creed Humphrey looks like a Pro Bowl rookie, and all they do is pass. It's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's run. Let's show that we can do that and make defenses prepare.
Two things.
Uh-oh.
Don Ho's dead.
Okay.
Rest in peace.
I mean, you say it with such a smile on your face. It's like the happiest you've been the whole
Listen, we
show.
lost him in 2007.
Rest
and
in
he's a
power.
great entertainer, and that's that. Number two, when I was a kid, when I was like a teenager, and my younger brother, Kevin Danger Hansis, we used to play football, one-on-one football. And that's a lot. That's tackling. That's pretty rough. And the passing plays would be drop back to pass, throw it up in the air, chase the ball down, catch it.
Over the
I'd
opponent.
beat Kevin with a little pump fake,
Yep.
up over, just rip the top off the defense for 6. Patrick Mahomes does that on
Ooh.
Sunday.
Drops his solo album by just throwing the ball to himself.
Passes to
over and
himself.
over. I like that a lot.
That's
That's Andy Reid creativity.
Forget it was 71. Go back to 96. When
I mean,
was dropping
Andy
that.
Reid does seem kind of bored sometimes and wants to make up these crazy plays. If he unveiled the pump fake, Mahomes throws it really high. I mean, Mahomes has a strong arm. He
So
can
I'm
throw
saying.
it very high, sees the hole in the zone. He knows where it's going, and then catches it. People would go nuts.
They go
I love
nuts.
it.
You
I
put him
adore
in
it.
Canton tomorrow if Andy Reid pulls
Can
that
you
off.
do it? Is that
that allowed?
actually allowed? Could you throw it to your?
Let's
What's
find
the
out.
league?
Why are you?
We should know.
Like it's,
I mean, you can catch it when
page
it's
800 on the
you
rule
can
book.
catch your own pass when it's tipped. I'm not sure you're allowed to catch your own pass.
It's a forward pass.
Otherwise.
I'd say just test it.
Well, we'll
see
check
see what the zebras
We'll
say.
check with our rules expert, Dean Blandino.
Hey, Dino! All right, Greg
Not
on the
with us.
Chargers.
Oh, this Chargers team. I love them. I love Brandon Staley. I love the confidence with which he said they will fall in love with who we are. The city of Los Angeles will. They will fall in love. Because that's how I found love works best, is just insistence. You just keep telling them they're going to fall in love, and then eventually they are. Like ultra confidence. That's how I found my wife. Just like, you're going to fall in love with me. I know you will. Over and over, just keep saying it.
Yeah, sounds like
Yes, I know you will.
I'm sure
I love the confidence. Hey, I'm not changing who I am. You're going to fall in love with who we are. That's aggressive.
It sounds like she had a broad opportunity there to make her own choice, Greg. That's impressive. I mean, a lot of people say this about Los
Problematic on some
Angeles in
level.
general. Like, how many thousands of people move to LA a day saying, this city is going to fall in love with me and what I have to offer? It happens sometimes. Doesn't always happen. It's a tough sports town. How are the Lakers getting
Dan
treated
was there.
right now?
The Chargers fans that were there, I know it was like a Super
love
Bowl
him.
atmosphere, but they were into it, right?
They've
I'll
got
make
the
you love
quarterback.
me is like the stalker's notes to so many Hollywood starlets through the years. But
Yeah.
I do think that the city of Los Angeles is responding to the Chargers in a positive way. You get that feeling. I had a conversation with Matt Money Smith, the voice of the Chargers, a couple weeks ago, and perhaps he's not someone who you would say is impartial, but he was getting ready to call a game, and you saw Justin Herbert come up on the big screen, squeals like teenage girls, like Beatles mania type thing, and maybe that is starting to get a foothold here because it is like a young Dan Marino situation here if he continues his arc.
I think that he changes everything, and I am a Staley head. I love Brandon Staley, so I'm just saying that LA in general, Brandon Staley knows as well as anyone. It's a tough market. If you're not winning, they drop you real quick.
But
So-
they have an identity because of Herbert, and he's the key to it all, that they're going to make the Chargers lovable because they have Justin Herbert. But I think the combination of Herbert and ultra aggression, even if it doesn't work, I kind of get it. Like, we're going to be that team. I think I can get behind that. The
It's funny.
city's
I
going to
kind
love
of see it as like a needy boyfriend who has a girlfriend that's out of his league, and he's like just almost like cloying, and he's just all over her, and she's just, give me some space.
Are we back on Greg and his
I'm
before
saying
his
no,
wife was
over
his
like
wife?
going for it all the time is like, I love you so much. Don't you love me the way I love you? And like Herbert's like, okay, I get it. You love me. How about we kick a field goal?
Now Herbert's the one that he's trying to convince? I'm confused.
Who's that?
Raiders, you have accepted a gift from the football gods. The COVID gods? Screw them. Now what? Okay, so the Browns were compromised. I know in this room it's like the greatest game of all time by the Browns, and I should be genuflecting at their mere presence.
Well,
But
it's a high watermark.
the
Mullins
Browns
Nation.
are a better team than the Raiders, but the Browns are a deeply compromised team with a third-string quarterback that nearly beat you. You get credit, of course, for getting back on the field, Derek Carr, after that interception, and then Daniel Carlson with the money kick. He kicked it twice, by the way, with the timeout move. But now what? Are you going to take that dramatic, somewhat implausible win and turn it into a playoff appearance? Or are you just going to lose the last 3 games or 2 of the last 3 games and just be an also-ran once more?
I'm going to go the Mark Sessler route here and say, like, doesn't matter. Either way. They're going to, if they win this week against the Broncos, which I do not expect, because the Raiders look like a team that almost deep down wanted to lose in Cleveland. I mean, it wasn't Carr. Carr played pretty well.
Certainly
but
not true.
everyone was dropping balls, making mistakes. They should have won that game a million times. And it was like deep down they almost knew that they were not going to make the playoffs. Even if they somehow beat Denver this week, they're losing the next 2 weeks against the Colts and the Chargers, and I don't think they have much of a chance to make the playoffs.
I just say that the football gods also gave them Drew Lock this week, so it's like someone's smiling down on them. But their offense, 16 or fewer points in 6 of 7 games. They've been giving up over 30 regularly outside of this last week's scenario. I mean, they're just a bad football team right now. They feel like I thought we came to the conclusion a couple weeks ago that they hit the end of the road.
They're 2-5 in their last 7.
Yeah.
One was against Nick Mullins.
I asked the question. I think they're cooked.
Yeah,
I think they're cooked. I think the only reason they won is because of an act of the football gods. But it certainly matters. It doesn't matter in the sense that the Raiders aren't making a Super Bowl run. But it might help, like going back to Mark's point, when he got the medal for humanitarianism, like it might save jobs. I mean, in Vegas, Mike Mayock might still have a job if they finish the season well.
It's kind of like if you're
playoffs.
a fan of these two teams, winning this game will make the next week way more interesting and fun. But that's, to me, all it'll be, because I don't think either team is going far. Yeah.
Finally, Mark on the Broncos. 1 minute, buddy.
All right. Cool season, Broncos. But guess what? We're right back where we started. Nice job. And, we hit this topic every week with Denver. But you went out and found a non-solution at quarterback, a patch.
Sorry, Greggy.
I'm sorry, but it was a patch. And on top of it, like, you know what? Here, you're hanging around with a good defense. I'm not trying to be overly cynical or negative. It's Broncos fans. I used to live in Denver.
Don't read the lower third.
Right.
Well, no,
that is cynical.
It is Broncos fans who feel this way. It really is. Because you are now back on another quarterback search. You went out and got a 1-year patch, and Greg, I'll give you the back half of this because I know you're like pro Teddy Nation, and it's Teddy seems like a nice guy.
It's just Teddy's beside the point. They're 7-7. I mean, there are teams like the Browns. It's over. 10 seconds. The Browns are 7-7. Like the Broncos have the best record ever for a team that got only 1 minute here.
He's trying to hurt you. He brings the Browns into it.
I can't be hurt at this point by Browns speak.
No expectations. I think they'll win this week. But you're right. They're just not going anywhere.
All right, there you go. The AFC West.
That's cookies.
That was good. AFC South now. The Jaguars are still in the league. You know how you prove it, because they will get 3 minutes is my prediction. We're going to give them an extra minute.
Holiday spirit.
Holiday spirit on the broadcast. All right, we're back. Oh, no, AFC South, they got the last division again. 1 year. It's going to change. We can promise you that. All right, here we go. Let's start with the Titans. And guess what, everybody? Turns out wide receivers are cool. It's been a mess. It's been a mess for the Titans for weeks. The running game's been okay without Derrick Henry, but Julio Jones is a ghost, and A.J. Brown had been absent for a month, and Tannehill was hung out to dry. What happens? A.J. Brown goes back in the lineup on Thursday and absolutely carries the offense to a huge win. A win that, remember last week on the show, Operation Oh No, just win one. And they did, because they won against the Niners. They're going to win against the Jaguars, AFC South champions, and it's because A.J. Brown came back.
Right. You can make this. Turns out A.J. Brown is cool. I think he set the all-time record for third down catches in this game, which is just outrageous, or since 1970.
It's a good record.
Julio Jones played in that game, by the way. He only won for 7. Didn't really matter.
Yeah.
That was just like an unbelievable performance. It really confirmed what we've seen about the Titans this year, which is like, A, they're better than every team in the NFC West. Supposedly the best division in football, 4-0 against that division, and that they're greater than the sum of their parts.
I love seeing how because he barely practiced. You know, they was slow going out of the gate, and the Titans were a mess early on, but he just got more and more comfortable, more and more in his own skin, A.J. Brown, as the game went along, and just absolutely dominated. And we talked about Jimmy G and the Niners keeping that door open for the Titans. And Vrabel, I kind of starting to love Mike Vrabel, basically said, everyone was planning our funeral. We're not dead yet. And you swept the Colts. Those 2 wins matter so much. You're going to get more guys back, and they were the best team in the AFC for a stretch of time this season. They could get back there.
So we had Justin Graver on our podcast team. He's a big Titans fan, and we were talking on the preview show. To me, that felt like the biggest game of the year. Like, things could either spiral in a terrible direction, or if you win, as they did, all of a sudden, things feel different now with Tennessee. And given their playoff pedigree and the fact that they're going to host a playoff game and win their division, now they're a player again.
And within that game, like, both happened. They were spiraling. They got totally dominated in the first half, and yet they kept it close enough and had some luck, and then they make the comeback. Like, that's what great teams do.
All right, now we'll talk about the team, Mark, that was super annoyed by the second half of that game, the Colts.
Oh, they have to be. And the Colts obviously have become a really fascinating, dominant team in the AFC that kind of just imposes their will. We know it's Jonathan Taylor. He has like 37% of their offensive production. Last week kind of was an example of the team playing around Carson Wentz a little bit. So I just would ask, like, it's not necessarily against Arizona or when, at some point though, some dark moment where the Colts get stuck in sort of a Carson-shaped calamity where you can't play around a quarterback who's done pretty well this season. It's just that there's moments where I wonder if he's going to ultimately hijack what's been a really interesting season.
Well, Saturday's one great candidate for it, because he's going to be missing 3 starting offensive linemen. Quentin Nelson went onto the COVID list late in the week. They're also missing some starters on defense. So that offensive line is the identity of this team. And if you remember the offense in the first 6 weeks of the season when they weren't as good, what's the difference between now and then? It was they didn't have that offensive line healthy. There was a lot of injuries on the offensive line back then. So to me, they are not the Colts, at least on Saturday as we know it.
I think the easy answer is, he's going to eventually screw them because he's mistake prone and he has a tendency to shrink in a big spot. However, we have seen in our league the likes of Eli Manning, Joe Flacco, Carson Wentz's old backup, Nick Foles, get hot and just play like a superstar through the playoffs. I could see that for Carson Wentz also. I could see him having a special month, and then you put him with a really good Colts team, and all of a sudden they're in the Super Bowl. So I see both outcomes. I see him sinking their season, wild card weekend. I see them holding a Lombardi trophy. They are a fascinating team for that reason.
I like it because it's one of the offseason narratives that we were beating like a dead horse for 6 months, where it's such a good landing spot for Carson Wentz with Frank Reich and fill in the blank. But it has been. For once, it kind of plays out.
Right. He deserves credit for that, too, which he doesn't get any credit. But Wentz, I think, has, on balance, had a good season for a guy that a lot of people thought he was washed entering this season.
He was like 5 for 13 for 50 yards,
Got him
last week.
Well, maybe that was the calamity.
Play NFL Knockout, the free-to-play game presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Answer 15 questions about the Colts and Cardinals to win exclusive prizes including a VIP package to this year's Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles. Visit NFL.com/knockout. By the way, not to get off topic, but hey, Cardinals, go win a football game in your building against a compromised Colts team.
They have to.
Show us you're for real. Take care of business. Greg, Texans.
Ooh, Texans. How about Davis Mills? I don't know if I'm going to say give him a little love, but he wasn't a bad third-round pick. That's just where I'm at. There was I remember on Twitter especially, there was some saying that they lit this pick on fire. People made fun of them because this was the first pick under the new regime. If you can get a quarterback that is okay in the third round and at worst I think is a long-term backup, like that's a good third-round pick. Period.
I'm totally with you because the value will be there if he's their backup for the next 3 or 4 years. He can spot start. He's not been bad the last couple of weeks. You kind of see
he's
things.
Okay.
I mean, I don't like teams that would stick with Davis Mills for year on end.
He's not untalented either. He's got a big arm. Like, he checks some boxes.
Greg, I don't want to steal your thunder here, but a wise man once said, you know who's the most important player on your roster? Your starting quarterback. And you know who's the second most important player on your roster? Your backup quarterback. Well, Davis Mills, at the very least, is a solid backup quarterback, and by Casserly logic, that's a pretty good third-round pick.
We were wishing Charlie Casserly especially a very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Chaz.
Love that guy.
I love him. Even though the Mike McCagnon, Todd Bowles hire didn't work out for the Jets, and Mr. Casserly was involved with that search process.
I mean, you didn't have to bring that up.
Yeah,
Great colleague, really nice guy. He's been a guest on our podcast.
Wonderful human being.
Jaguars. I don't know what to say about the Jaguars. How about Miles Jack wasn't down?
Stupid.
Let's go back to this.
How about this? This is just for the Jaguars fans. This is also for Greg a little bit. Chance to go to the Super Bowl, the AFC Championship game. Here we go. The Patriots going down. The ball's out. Jack picks it up, not touched, and he has a wide open path to the game-sealing touchdown. The Jaguars are going to the Super Bowl. Here comes that Patriots luck that we all know about. They rule him down. The Jaguars unable to close out that game. It's been all downhill since for the franchise.
Touching White there, who was
Ball's loose. Ball's loose. He picks it up. Never touched. Miles Jack wasn't down.
I'm with you. I'm with you. This came a week after one of my favorite playoff games of all time when the Jaguars dropped an A-bomb on the Steelers. Remember that? I threw a cushion across our
I was in a press con. I was at the Eagles NFC Championship at the time. Hey, but Jaguars, you had the best defense of all time or whatever that year. How about you make a stop in the fourth quarter? Don't let Tom Brady go down for 2 straight touchdowns when you got a 10-point fourth quarter lead. You blew it, Jaguars.
Ouch.
It's decided on the field.
Greg hijacked that.
4 words. Miles Jack wasn't down. I stand by it. The game was over. All right, coming up next.
Sneaky great game. Great moment.
And you gave that team up. Come back to the Patriots. Those moments could happen again.
There's time.
Coming up next, No Way, Yes Way. We talk Cooper Kupp and Aaron Rodgers. Welcome back to the broadcast. It's time for the game that all the kids are talking about. It's really taken off in youth culture. No way? Yes way. No way? Yes way. All right. Greg, Cooper Kupp should be the MVP front runner.
Front runner.
No way? Yes way.
Yes way.
Over here with the wide receiver.
Well, we have to answer one way or the other. And front runner is strong. But if a wide receiver is ever going to win MVP, I think now's the time. Quarterback play is down this year. Like Aaron Rodgers' season is much worse than his season a year ago when he won the MVP.
It's relative.
For instance, 5 quarterbacks had a QBR. I think it was over 70 last year. None do this year. So if ever a wide receiver is going to win, I think it would be Cooper Kupp this year. And when you just watch him each and every game, how can you deny him right now? I think he's the guy.
I mean, I would say yes way.
Wow.
I'm agreeing with Greg because I think like if there's ever been a year, I've been watching football since like late 80s, where it's like you're not just going to put a quarterback in there because we haven't had that truly special quarterback season. We have had something truly special with Cooper Kupp. I mean, week to week, his numbers are insane. I think it matters what happens over the next couple weeks as well. But if he closes it out in this fashion, bingo.
All right, so if we agree that the quarterback should not be in the conversation this year, which I'm fine with.
No, they should be in the conversation.
So
Rodgers
where
has a chance.
is Jonathan Taylor? If he has 2,000 total yards and 23 touchdowns, why not give it to him? Why is it Cooper Kupp or bust here?
Well, it matters what happens over the next couple weeks.
Hey, I agree that it matters what happens.
I'd be
I think there's a hierarchy. I do think wide receivers are worth more. I think you look at the numbers of the offensive line.
So ask Frank Wright what he thinks.
I think he thinks the running game is valuable, but the blocking, the yards before even any contact, they get some.
That was great. That was a great debate. I liked it.
That's what he thinks.
All right, we're about to go open some presents.
Open it up.
But before we
Open up
do,
those
some
presents.
weekend vibes coming up. Wearing the Jet sweater on Christmas Eve. What could go wrong? Up next.
Santa, you can leave now.
Oh!
Go.
All right, it's almost time to open presents, but before that, weekend vibes. Mark, get us going.
Well, I don't know who saw this before the Niners-Titans game, but Nick Bosa, I don't know what images we have. We don't necessarily have the footage from our own network, but here, in fact, this is not totally explaining what I want to say. But Nick Bosa's quads during these warm-ups were like literally bigger than most people's waists. And so I just think, again,
But
we're
this is
dealing
not
with...
from the warm-ups.
But this is
It's
this
from the
is
game.
what you wanted to talk about. It's a Christmas show. It's the last thing, and the quads were.
Merry Christmas, quad
All right,
watch.
Greg, what do you got?
I just want to say Merry Christmas to all. And
Oh, wow.
when I say
Very nice.
all, of course, everyone who's celebrating it, the birth of Christ, that's all great. But there are kids out there that weren't raised that way, like me. Maybe you're Jewish, but it's like culturally, but you just pass presents out on the 25th. The 25th could be a great day for everyone. Oh, what a
can I jump
format.
in?
It's family day. You know what I mean?
As a Gentile,
Yeah.
I think we've been pretty cool about Christmas.
That's what I mean.
Put up
You're
your
letting us
tree,
have it.
Do the presents. We've always been
That's what I
inclusive
mean.
with Christmas. So
It's like, what could
Christmas
be
is for
better
the
than
Jews,
hanging
too. It's
out with
for
your
all of us.
family,
Greg, you were
passing
working
the presents
through
around.
your own issues here. We welcome
My
you to
town
do
was
that.
like 98% Irish Catholic, but I still had fun on the 25th.
very good. Christmas is a vibe for all of us. Finally,
Somehow Quad Watch beat that.
happy anniversary, New York football. It was 11 years ago. I was in my Uncle Stu's house with Jets, Giants. It was a playoff game for both teams. And the Jets had the Giants backed up, 3rd and 10 at their Giants won, and Victor Cruz changes history. The Giants never lost again that season, beating Greg's Patriots in the Super Bowl. The Jets have never won since. Actually, if you want a real number, the Giants and Jets since this game a combined 17 and 209. And that's not true either, but it sounds like it could be true.
It sounds real. They're making progress.
New York football has never been in a worse spot in the history of the city, and we're living in that moment right now ever since the Victor Cruz game.
And
It's been
Victor
downhill.
Cruz had his big breakout game in the preseason against the Jets, I believe. So
That less
Jets
memorable,
killer.
but that was cool too.
Take that
Merry
sweater
Christmas to everybody, even Greg. We'll see you next week.